Hey everyone, it's April 25th, and that means that if today's your birthday, you share with serial killer Paul John Knowles, known as the Casanova Killer, who murdered at least 18 victims in 1974, and that is him right up there. One of 5 children, Knowles was born in Orlando in 1946 and grew up in Central Florida, being dumped into the foster care system after his father beat and abused him as a child. Already a thief at the age of 8, he spent time in reform school before graduating to an actual prison for kidnapping a police officer when he was 19. Over the next 8 years, he bounced between being behind bars and living on the outside, where he invariably would commit another crime and get sent back to jail. While incarcerated in Florida in 1974, he picked up a pen pal in California, and their relationship soon blossomed into romance. His beau was a recent divorcee in San Francisco, and she soon hired a lawyer who managed to get him paroled and flew him out to the West Coast. They planned to get married, but when she met him in person, changed her mind, thinking he had a dangerous aura. She was right about that, because after being dumped, Knowles returned to Florida, where he stabbed a bartender and ended up in jail once again. In July of that year, he escaped, picking the lock of his cell and disappearing. That very night, he broke into the Jacksonville home of a 65-year-old woman who he bound and gagged before stealing her car. She choked to death on her false teeth, becoming the first of many murder victims he was about to rack up. A few days later, he strangled a woman in Florida, then headed to Georgia, where he murdered another. In September, he killed a man in Ohio, stealing his car and assuming his identity. He repeated this process over and over, killing a victim, usually by strangulation, then taking their credit cards and vehicle, using their identity to move on to a new location. Knowles had confirmed kills across the country, including in Alabama, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Nevada, Ohio, and Texas, with additional suspected murders in California. Due to his constant travel, police in small towns didn't realize they were dealing with a serial killer. He murdered men, women, and children via strangulation and shooting, with some robbery victims, some sexually assaulted, and even some cases of necrophilia. Relying on his good looks to lure in new victims, Knowles picked up a British reporter at a hotel in Georgia in late 1974, and the two had a brief but torrid love affair. She later wrote that he was a dreamboat who was a cross between Robert Redford and Ryan O'Neal. Ask your grandparents who they were. I don't have time in this video. On November 17th, he was pulled over by a Florida state trooper, but he got the jump on the cop, taking the man hostage as they drove away in the police vehicle. He used the cop car to pull over another auto and killed the driver and his hostage after tying them to a tree. Though he escaped the ensuing manhunt, Knowles was caught by a civilian and taken into custody. He confessed to 35 murders, of which 18 have been confirmed, and he sent tapes to his lawyer on which he described each of the killings. A month later, while being transported to a location in Georgia where he had dumped a gun, he allegedly attempted to escape custody and was shot dead by an investigator. How many killings did Knowles commit? We'll never know for sure, but to this day, efforts are underway to identify any additional victims. If this is your birthday, I hope you have a great day. Leave me a comment so I can wish you a happy birthday. If you know someone whose birthday it is today, send them this video so they can find all about their birthday twin. And to Paul John Knowles, I say, happy birthday, you bastard.